Tonight on NewsWatch, the president lays out his plan for America's future. Why members of Congress ask, how are we going to pay for it?
Plus, why Maryland could be the next state to say yes to same-sex marriage.
And Israeli police arrest 3 Palestinian terrorists and charge them with murdering an American tourist. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. President Obama talks about his vision for the next 2 years. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lee Webb.
And I'm Wendy Griffith. During his State of the Union address, the president called for major investments in technology and infrastructure. But Republicans say investments is just code word for more spending. New numbers out today predict the government's deficit will hit a record $1.5 trillion this year. That's why Republicans say now is the time to cut the budget. John Jessup has more from Washington in tonight's top story.
With a theme of winning for America, the president insisted the country is poised for progress. Progress, he says, that comes with a commitment to face the challenges head on.
We know what it takes to compete for the jobs and industries of our time. We need to out-innovate, out-educate, and out-build the rest of the world.
He called for encouraging innovation, reforming education, and modernizing America's infrastructure and industries. Those calls come with a cost which he described as investments. Talk of investments led to a cold reception from Republicans who see it as more government spending.
I was hoping to hear about cut, but I heard spend, spend, spend.
Whether sold as stimulus or repackaged as investment, their actions show they want a federal government that controls too much, taxes too much, and spends too much in order to do too much.
The GOP might be a more willing partner in efforts to tackle the federal debt and deficit spending.
We shouldn't just give our people a government that's more affordable. We should give them a government that's more competent and more efficient.
The president proposed a 5-year freeze on all non-security related discretionary spending.
I think a 5-year freeze on spending that produces only $400 billion in savings, while that is a nice step, I believe that is only a token.
So you have to really be careful about how you trim, what you do in order that you not harm and make unemployment even worse than it is.
On health care, the president said he's open to making changes, but defended the reform law for improving lives. Republicans have a very different take.
We do believe that we ought to repeal it and replace it. He believes we ought to tinker with it.
The government controlling another 1/6 of our economy and controlling the health care decisions is not a good thing.
The president has a tough sell, not only here on Capitol Hill, where he must convince a divided Congress to buy into his plans, he must also win over a skeptical American public whose votes last November showed they overwhelmingly rejected the president's policies. John Jessup, CBN News, Capitol Hill.
In addition to the official Republican response, Tea Party favorite Michelle Bachmann from Minnesota weighed in with her own high-profile speech. It was originally aimed at Tea Party activists on the web, but CNN ended up broadcasting it live. Bachmann focused on the signature Tea Party theme, cutting the deficit.
Thanks to you, there's reason for all of us to have hope that real spending cuts are coming. Because last November, you went to the polls and you voted out the big spending politicians and you put in their place great men and women with a commitment to follow our Constitution and cut the size of government.
We should point out there that Michelle Bachmann was actually addressing the Tea Party camera. That was another camera, so it looked like she was actually looking off camera. But for more analysis on the president's address by Dr. Charles Dunn from Regent University, first let me get you to comment on Michelle Bachmann. How did she do last night?
Well, in a sense, she did very well. But should she have done that? That's the big question. She's just a 3-term member of the Congress. She really didn't treat her elders properly there. She did not get permission to speak. Normally that always goes to someone like Mr. Ryan, who has served 7 terms. So, you know, Scripture says in Proverbs and James, sit in the back row till they ask you to come forward. She is bright, articulate, and attractive. She has the ingredients to be a significant leader. But having worked on the Hill, House and Senate sides, I've seen 2 types of people. They're the insiders like Mr. Ryan, who work from within and work their way up. They're the outsiders. They're the flamethrowers. Why didn't she get elected to the chairmanship of the Republican Conference? Why didn't she get the committee assignment she wanted? Because they couldn't trust her.
Interesting, interesting. Well, let's talk about the president's address. Did it resonate with Americans last night, you think?
In the short run, it did. But the New York Times this morning had a story that, in effect, said he spoke with forked tongue. He really misled on a number of key issues.
The New York Times saying
New York Times, education, energy, jobs, and they detailed the misstatements. So the way I look at it is he tried to soar like an eagle, a Kennedy, a Reagan. He ended up somewhat like a Carter or a Clinton.
This talk of he mentioned a spending freeze for 5 years. Are conservatives going to be okay with that? Is that enough?
No, they're going to have to fight for more than that. Both the Tea Party folks and Michelle Bachmann, plus the Republican leadership, will fight for much more. They have to pay off on their promises that they won on in 2010.
Including cutting entitlements?
Yes. That'll be difficult, but they're going to have to make the effort.
Do you think that Democrats can go along with Republicans on that? I mean, it is the third rail of politics when we're talking about Social Security and the like.
It's not likely we'll see anything done. We'll see a lot of talking on both sides. Leadership must first come from the president. Any time that a Republican leads on this, he gets smashed, and the Republican Party looks bad. So only if the president takes the lead will we see action. But the important point about this is that we'll have hearings, we'll have talk, and that could move us along to, at some point, getting meaningful action on entitlements.
Dr. Dunn, as always, thanks. We appreciate it.
Well, a major benchmark today on Wall Street. For the first time in 2.5 years, the Dow Jones broke through the 12,000 mark. The last time the Dow traded above 12 was June of 2008. Investors were encouraged today by President Obama's call to overhaul taxes on businesses during the State of the Union. However, the benchmark didn't hold throughout the day. The Dow closed up 7 points at just under the 12,000 mark.
Lawmakers in Maryland are pushing to legalize gay marriage. They have introduced bills in both houses of the legislature there. If they pass, it's likely to set off a battle across that state. Paul Strand has the story.
The next state house where lawmakers are likely to legalize gay marriage is this one in Maryland. Senators and delegates have already introduced twin bills to do that, and it appears they have the votes to pass them.
There's a lot of momentum for marriage equality. And I think it's good because it's a fundamental issue of equality and rights.
They're going to continue to argue that this is all about rights.
Leading opponent Delegate Don Dwyer says, though,
when you cross the line on the term marriage, all of a sudden it's a new game.
He and conservative activists say Marylanders will turn it down in a referendum if the legislature legalizes it.
If we gather roughly 55,000 signatures, then any bill that's passed goes to the people and they have the chance to overturn it.
And they think Marylanders will.
When you have such a strong contingency of Catholics, strong contingency of African Americans, and even Hispanics and others that are very concerned about the issue.
Maryland has a significant African American population. The African American community overwhelmingly opposes same-sex marriage.
The group of legislators down here who are proponents of same-sex marriage do not represent the overall majority of Marylanders.
Pastor Rick Bowers says people need to contact groups like his Christian Impact Alliance to help gather those signatures for the ballot measure and then get out the vote.
We need to make sure that the Christians don't sit home with their value vote in their pocket.
You won't often find those promoting gay marriage talking about religion, but we found here in Maryland an actual strain of thought that says gay marriage is a matter of religious freedom.
Delegate Barnes points out the bills explicitly allow churches the right to opt out of performing same-sex marriages.
But it also gives my church the right to marry who they want. So in a way, this is a religious freedom issue. If a religion wants to marry someone, a same-sex couple, they now have the ability, and government now recognizes it and gives those rights given by government.
But these conservatives warn where gays win marriage, they right away begin a propaganda war, charging.
That is that those of us that believe that the union of a man and a woman is what a marriage is, are the equivalent of racists.
Whatever is codified as law in the state, that's what's going to be taught in every school system, every structure.
Your children will be taught that you are a bigot. They will be taught about same-sex marriage. This has already happened in every jurisdiction that has passed same-sex marriage.
The pastors of the local churches need to engage with this issue at this time.
The problem is, Bowers believes far too often those who believe in traditional values lose to liberals because they don't get out, fight, and vote.
And I think that we've made a huge mistake as Christians, that we've let down our society.
But Barnes argues conservative Christians shouldn't stand in the way of gay marriage.
No matter your conception of marriage or God, it can't be denied that there are a bundle of civil rights tied to marriage. And those rights weren't bestowed by God. I mean, these are pension benefits, rights to visit your loved one in the hospital. These are rights given by government. And when government gives rights and responsibilities, we have a duty to do so without partiality and prejudice.
Dwyer begs to differ.
There is no compromise. It's about either we're going to keep marriage between a man and a woman, or we're going to give marriage over to same-sex individuals. And the stage is set. I'm ready for the fight.
For those in this state house trying to legalize same-sex marriage, they say in the name of equality, it's what the people need. But opponents say put it up for a vote in the general population, you'll find out it's not what the people want. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Annapolis, Maryland.
Thanks, Paul. Arizona Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords continues to make progress in her recovery. Today, doctors upgraded her condition from serious to good. This change made it possible for her to move from a Houston hospital to a nearby rehab facility. Last night, Giffords was able to watch an hour of television sitting up in bed. Coming up, violence spreads across the Arab world. Why this anti-government rage is bringing change to the Middle East.
Attention investors, now is the time to protect your retirement accounts and investments. Excessive government spending is devaluing the US dollar and high rates of inflation are coming. Gold has tripled since 2001 and some experts predict the prices will climb another 100%. Buy gold now, direct and wholesale with United Gold Group. The demand for gold around the world is higher than ever. Foreign countries like China and India are buying up gold at record rates. Why? What do they know that you don't?
Call now and get your Gold Investors Kit absolutely free. Call in the next 5 minutes and receive The Secret to Owning Gold in Your Retirement Account, also absolutely free. Just call 1-800-758-5070. That's 1-800-758-5070.
This could be the most important call you make this year. United Gold Group, investing in America's future.
Don't just cash in those old coins. You may have valuable rare collectible coins and not even know it.
Hi, I'm Jim Fisher, numismatist and TV coin expert for over 20 years. Introducing the Art of Collecting Coins DVD set. The DVD set that shares the secrets of coin collecting and investment and shows you how the pros really make money.
The Art of Collecting Coins DVD features 4 of the most knowledgeable coin experts in the world, and they tell you the secrets only the pros know on how to make money collecting and investing in rare coins. The Art of Collecting Coins DVD set includes over 2.5 hours of detailed information, history, and recommendations for using coin collecting as a stabilizing addition to your financial portfolio. Take the opportunity now by ordering the DVD set, The Art of Collecting Coins.
Now you can learn the value of collecting coins and how to do it right.
Now get The Art of Collecting Coins DVD set absolutely free. But that's not all. We will also include How to Make Money Collecting Coins absolutely free. To get your free DVD, The Art of Collecting Coins, and bonus DVD, How to Make Money Collecting Coins, call 1-888-559-6777 or visit coincollectordvd.com.
Lebanon's new Hezbollah-backed prime minister is beginning to form his cabinet. This after days of violent protest. Sunni Muslims took to the streets in several cities, angry over the growing power and influence of the Shiite Hezbollah. The largest protests broke out in Tripoli, a city dominated by Sunnis. Some fear the increasing power of the Iranian-backed Hezbollah could mean more violence with Israel or even another civil war.
In Egypt, meanwhile, anti-government activists took to the streets for a second day of deadly protests. They're angry over persistent poverty, high unemployment, and corruption. The crowds are demanding President Hosni Mubarak step down. He's been in power for nearly 30 years. 3 people died Tuesday during the protests. The violence comes after an uprising toppled a tyrannical government in Tunisia. Egyptian protesters are copying the Tunisians, using Facebook and Twitter to rally support.
For more on the growing unrest in the Middle East, John Waggy joins us now. John, you lived over there and covered the region extensively. How the U.S., of course, has a big stake in both Lebanon and Egypt. How is the Obama administration handling this?
Well, so far they're handling it with kid gloves. There's been very little statement coming out of the White House or the State Department on both the Egyptian and Lebanon fronts. And look what's happened in Lebanon. We have a situation where the Iranian-backed Hezbollah, a terrorist group designated by the State Department as terrorist group who killed 241 Marines in 1983, is now running the government, essentially, of Lebanon. And that's after we've given aid to the Lebanese army, and we've tried for years to keep the moderates, the Sunnis, with a balance of power. And now it's going to go to a group backed by Iran. Yeah. So that's not a good situation. And in Egypt, you've got Hosni Mubarak, ill, over 80 years old, and people in cities all over Egypt demanding him to leave office.
I didn't realize he was that old. Well, now you believe these protests in the Arab world, are they going to make things more dangerous for Israel?
Very strong possibility. What happens in these situations where you have strong men running regimes in the Arab world, say Morocco, Jordan, Libya, Egypt, Lebanon, what happens is when they're weak internally, they need an external threat. And Israel, from time immemorial, since they became a modern nation, has been that threat. They'd rather see people protesting in the streets saying death to Israel than death to Mubarak.
Absolutely. So, now, do you expect these protests to spread throughout the Middle East?
Well, I think it could be sporadic, but there is a real danger in Egypt, a country of 80 million people with an aging leader. And you've got a huge Muslim Brotherhood faction, the people who sponsor Hamas. Mubarak does not like Hamas, and he has put a lid on them. If they would happen to gain power in the election, or even Mubarak being driven from office, that could present a real problem in the Middle East.
And real quick, I mean, is there anything that President Obama can do or say to help?
Well, one thing that people have been encouraging for the president is to say a little more about the democracy movement, the freedom movement. These people are taking to the streets because they want to use their Facebook, not have it shut down, basically. And President Obama didn't even mention Egypt in his speech last night. He did make reference to Tunisia and the Jasmine Revolution that happened there, but Egypt, he's not saying anything. So there's a mixed message being sent, and there's also a message being sent that will America be there to help if we do strive for freedom.
All right, thanks for keeping an eye on it. John Waggy, thanks.
Sure.
Up next, murder charges. The Palestinian terrorist behind bars for killing a Christian missionary.
Attention investors, now is the time to protect your retirement accounts and investments. Excessive government spending is devaluing the U.S. dollar, and high rates of inflation are coming. Gold has tripled since 2001, and some experts predict the prices will climb another 100%. Buy gold now, direct and wholesale with United Gold Group. The demand for gold around the world is higher than ever. Foreign countries like China and India are buying up gold at record rates. Why? What do they know that you don't?
Call now and get your Gold Investors Kit absolutely free. Call in the next 5 minutes and receive the secret to owning gold in your retirement account, also absolutely free. Just call 1-800-758-5070. That's 1-800-758-5070.
This could be the most important call you make this year. United Gold Group, investing in America's future.
If you have diabetes and you're on Medicare, call now for a new pain-free meter. These new meters are more accurate, they're easier to use, and the best news is you don't have to prick your fingers anymore. Call now, and Arriva Medical will send you one of these new meters for free. And if you have Medicare, your testing supplies may also be covered. Arriva makes it simple. They bill Medicare directly. There are no upfront costs. And they deliver your supplies right to your door for free. With these new meters, there's no coding, you don't have to prick your fingers, and some of these meters even talk.
Your blood glucose reading is 122.
And if you call 1-800-284-9762, we will send you a free Betty Crocker Diabetes Cookbook filled with delicious recipes.
Call Arriva today. You'd be glad you did.
While many people think the economy started to improve last year, that was not the case for the housing market. Last year, new home sales sank to their lowest level in 47 years. People bought 321,000 new homes last year. That is a drop from 375,000 units sold in 2009. The year did end on a strong note, though. In December, sales increased in nearly every market.
Toyota is recalling nearly 1.7 million cars across the world for fuel leaks. The models involved are under its Lexus brand. The Lexus IS and GS models could develop leaks around the fuel sensor. The repairs will cost Toyota more than $240 million. 77 people have complained about the problem in North America. There are no reports of any accidents. It is the latest in a series of problems for the Japanese car giant. It recalled 12 million vehicles in 2009.
Americans on the East Coast are bracing for another dose of winter weather. A storm is bringing a mixture of rain and heavy snow from Tennessee to New England. The storm started early this morning and will continue well into the night as it moves up the East Coast. New York and Philadelphia have declared weather emergencies already. New York City could see 10 inches of snow before it's all over.
An American lawmaker is taking steps to protect religious minorities in the Middle East and South Central Asia. Virginia Congressman Frank Wolf has introduced legislation calling for the creation of a special envoy at the U.S. State Department. Wolf points to this deadly church bombing in Egypt New Year's Day. He says attacks against religious minorities are increasing there and in Iraq. He says the U.S. has an obligation to intercede, especially among allies receiving billions in U.S. aid. Well, in Israel, police arrested Palestinian terrorists for the murder of an American Christian tourist.
The killing took place last month outside Jerusalem. Chris Mitchell has the story now from Israel.
4 members of an 8-man cell appeared before a Jerusalem court and were charged with the murder of Christine Lucan. Police spokesman Mickey Rosenfeld said some arrests were made within 48 hours of the murder.
There were 4 main suspects behind the killings themselves. They both planned the killings, where they would take place. They both drove around the area inside the forest, and they planned exactly the area where they were going to dump her body exactly after that.
Lucan was hiking in the hills outside Jerusalem with her friend Kay Wilson when the two of them were assaulted. Wilson was wounded and managed to escape by playing dead, but Lucan was dragged away and murdered. Police said the Palestinians, all from the Hebron area, had been involved in 21 crimes since 1997, including the murder of another woman in 2010. According to police, last year the group decided to carry out nationalistic terror attacks. The family's attorney says the family is still looking for answers.
They would like to know what exactly happened on that tragic day when their daughter was murdered in a vicious terror attack.
Lucan worked for a Christian ministry based in England, and friends remember her as a dedicated Christian.
Christine was a woman who had a very infectious love for God. I think when you were around Christine, you couldn't help but love the Lord more. And it's very simply our prayer for this great tragedy, that even though it was meant for evil, that God will use this in a redemptive way.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Police in Manila believe an al-Qaeda-linked group could be responsible for the bombing of a passenger bus there. The explosion ripped through the bus as it traveled a main highway near the city's business center. At least 4 people were killed. Investigators say 2 men got off the bus shortly before the explosion. They recovered pieces of a mortar round and a cell phone they believe were used to detonate the bomb. CBN News Asia correspondent Lucille Toulousan was on the scene in Manila.
This is the exact spot. It's about the 6th row where the improvised explosive device went off, killing 4 people and injuring 14 passengers. Authorities are still investigating, but they are not discounting the fact that this incident could be part of a destabilization plot against the Aquino government.
The Philippines government has been fighting a decades-long battle with Islamic separatists in the south. The group has ties to al-Qaeda and may be responsible for a similar bus bombing in 2005.
Up next, how a 600-pound piano wound up in the middle of this Florida bay.
Finding video on CBN.com just got easier. We've taken all our video, the 700 Club, news, testimonies, teachings, plus our 24/7 channels, and put them in one convenient location, CBN TV. Watch what you want, when you want. It's all simple to find, and now easier than ever to email a story to a friend. CBN TV on CBN.com.
Attention investors, now is the time to protect your retirement accounts and investments. Excessive government spending is devaluing the US dollar and high rates of inflation are coming. Gold has tripled since 2001, and some experts predict the prices will climb another 100%. Buy gold now, direct and wholesale with United Gold Group. The demand for gold around the world is higher than ever. Foreign countries like China and India are buying up gold at record rates. Why? What do they know that you don't?
Call now and get your Gold Investors Kit absolutely free. Call in the next 5 minutes and receive The Secret to Owning Gold in Your Retirement Account, also absolutely free. Just call 1-800-758-5070. That's 1-800-758-5070.
This could be the most important call you make this year. United Gold Group, investing in America's future.
If you have diabetes and you're on Medicare, call now for a new pain-free meter. These new meters are more accurate, they're easier to use, and the best news is you don't have to prick your fingers anymore. Call now, and Arriva Medical will send you one of these new meters for free. And if you have Medicare, your testing supplies may also be covered. Arriva makes it simple. They bill Medicare directly. There are no upfront costs. And they deliver your supplies right to your door for free. With these new meters, there's no coding, you don't have to prick your fingers, and some of these meters even talk.
Your blood glucose reading is 122.
And if you call 1-800-284-9762, we will send you a free Betty Crocker Diabetes Cookbook filled with delicious recipes.
Call Arriva today. You'd be glad you did.
Well, imagine tickling the, excuse me, let me start over. Imagine tickling
tickling their throat.
Yes, tickling the ivories while floating on a raft in the middle of a Florida bay.
Well, now, thanks to an unsolved mystery, it's not that far-fetched. A 650-pound grand piano suddenly appeared on this sliver of a sandbar in the middle of Biscayne Bay. No one knows how it got there, but one thing is certain, the entire piano is destroyed. It was sold by a Milwaukee company, and that's all anyone knows. And even though it arrived quietly, its appearance is still creating a lot of noise and speculation.
Yeah, but how did it get there? That's the big question.
I woke up one morning and it was just out there.
It's a mystery. Who put it there?
It's like, do my eyes deceive me?
We've never seen a piano in the middle of the bay like that.
It appeared to me that they were doing a music video, and I'm sure that piano came off that boat, was a little too heavy to get back on that boat.
Oh.
Interesting. Some locals say that it was a publicity stunt by a nearby performing arts center. Either way, state officials say the piano will remain until it becomes a water hazard.
I could see that in a music video because they do all kinds of creative, strange stuff like that. The other scenario is somebody's missing their piano. Somebody got mad at somebody and they took their piano.
Looks like it was worth something. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.